you will have the 4 seconds of invincibility with using the tactical, but you do have to manually place Wraith's portal. That's a double-edged sword, much like Ash's sword.
You're going off right now with the
You
little
know,
puns.
Oh no, there's another squad attacking.
Let's do it. ACEU said it. He said, Ash is going to destroy Wraith. Let's compare the two and see where we think they sit versus one another.
yeah, this is kind of the battle of the Titans, honestly. The queen of Apex Legends, Wraith versus Ash, who is the long-awaited champion, who is a former Apex Predator, cemented into the lore of the game. This is a heavyweight title right here. It is really who's going to come out on top, and is there room for both of them? Honestly,
Both
at the
got
end of
some
the day,
pilot experience. You know,
it's true. They have
they're
so many
going up.
similarities here. But let's do a little bit of a breakdown of kind of that ultimate, because that's where they share the most similarity. So Ash on the cooldown is sitting at 120 seconds. Wraith, on the other hand, is 210 seconds. So 1.75 times longer on the cooldown. Definitely give the edge to Ash in terms of being able to use the ultimate more liberally and applying it in more situations, but Wraith kind of that more expensive option. Now, does it really stack up to that? And in that case, can Wraith pull out the edge because it's more valuable, in terms of the cooldown time? Look at the distance. So the max distance that you can use an Ash phase breach is 62.5 meters, compared to Wraith, who maxes out at 75 meters. This is an interesting stat to look at because both of these abilities, you may not be maxing out all the time. Wraith a lot of times will just do a quick portal to get around a corner, or to pull out a teammate that needs a res, or to do a quick phase around a building up 2 stories, up and down, all these sorts of crazy patterns. You're not going to use the full 75 meters. So distance is something that is nice for a capability standpoint, but isn't really a deciding factor. And truth be told, they're both about the same. So you have really similar distances. Now, duration is where we start to separate the pack a little bit. Ash's portal will stay open for 15 seconds. Wraith's will stay open for 60 seconds. Huge gap. And this is where we kind of come back to the value. Wraith's is a little more expensive in terms of cooldown. You get it for a lot longer. You have a lot more window of opportunity to actually use the ultimate. Now, what about the placement of these ultimates? They could not be any different, honestly. This is where they're probably the most different in terms of the use case, because that's really what it's all going to come down to. Both abilities can move the whole team. They have about the same distance. Duration and cooldown, it matters. I won't completely ignore it, but how do you use it? How long does it take? How difficult is it to use is really what it comes down to in a game of this pace. Now, Ash can place her phase breach just by placing it from a fixed location, point and shoot, boom. You slice
Done.
the air and you're in. No muss, no fuss. Wraith, it's a little bit more surgical. You're going to have to get your hands dirty a little bit. You're going to be running, and then coupled with the tactical, of course, can't overlook that. You will have the 4 seconds of invincibility with using the tactical, but you do have to manually place Wraith's portal. That's a double-edged sword, much like Ash's sword.
You're going off right now with the little puns.
Wraith can put it wherever she wants and can be very nimble in where she can place this exact portal for her team at the right moment, but it does take time for her to do so. And that leaves her team potentially on their own. The Wraith's going off, setting an amazing portal. Well, that's great. We just got rev-tained and the Wraith's gone. Ash, that's not going to happen as often because she's able to stay with her team in a perfect world based off of that
If the
placement speed.
teammates are good and
If
they
the teammates
stay
are
with
with
the
her,
Ash, yeah.
And that's, both ways. I think that it's important for teammates to stay close to the Ash, especially in kind of opportune moments.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like we said when we broke down the ultimate,
That
Ash
Ash can kill
needs,
herself. Yeah.
she needs to have her head on straight, as
Mm-hmm.
does Wraith in abandoning the team with the tactical.
But
Ash
Wraith,
needs
you
to use
have the
that ultimate.
time. Wraith,
Exactly.
you have the time to recognize when something's gone wrong. So it is a total double-edged sword both ways in terms of the good and the bad of having the extra time.
Mm-hmm. And finally, the use of the portals or breaches. Ash, one way, Wraith, a two-way. This is big because Wraith has the luxury of saying, don't take the portal. Ash is figuring that out the hard way by taking the portal instantaneously. There is no opportunity for her to identify, oh, I didn't place it right. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
Ash is in trouble with no way to come back. You have to follow her through, essentially. If you
Yeah.
don't follow her through, you've essentially lost the game, or
Mm-hmm.
you're just taking the L and saying, we're ratting the rest of the game.
So which one do you think's better?
It's tough. I think that it is tough. It's quite the fight. Really, what I look at is the application of each portal or breach. Wraith, you have that careful placement. You have the vertical flexibility of the mobility, being able to go up and down buildings is unique.
Mm-hmm.
It does take time to deploy. About 10 seconds being away from your squad mates is a serious price to pay, but having the two-way allows you to be so much more versatile. Offensively, defensively, you're able to help get teammates to safety, you're able to retreat, you're able to attack, you're able to go up and down. That's big. So you can't ignore that. Ash, on the other hand, may still be maybe even more viable because of the speed. Fast placement, that horizontal mobility only is a little bit of a slight, but it also, the speed of it keeps the team together. And that's pretty key. Wraith goes off for 10 seconds and then may or may not trigger it in a good spot. Team gets separated. Ash is able to, with that speed and instant deployment, make that breach happen, keep the teammates together. And that, if you ask me, is always a strength. Any legend that inspires the team to be closer is going to be good. But you couple that with a shorter duration and shorter cooldown, you're kind of at a stalemate, I think.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think that's a good word, like a stalemate. I think there are serious pros and cons with both of them to the point that it's going to be almost like the original Seer tactical versus the Bloodhound tactical, and that like, oh, there's moments I wish I had this, and there's moments I wish I had this one. And that's great. That means there's awesome use cases for both of them. It's just going to come down to what do you value? Do you value the flexibility or do you value the speed and aggressiveness? Maybe it comes down to ranked versus pubs. I'm not sure. I'm really interested to see and how that kind of arises. I think Wraith she's the top dog for a reason. Like she has the quote unquote get out of jail free card, and the fact that Ash has nothing like that there's no forgiveness. I would lean towards Wraith still staying pretty dang dominant, but I do see like a reason for the comparison, and I see a reason for them to maybe interact not only together, but also separately in different ways.
Yeah, being able to instantly jump on a location or an enemy is really, really strong. You have to give that respect to Ash, but the fact that it's such a gamble and its application is so nuanced where you pretty much have to be at high ground, you have to have clear visibility, you have to have hit shots already. There's no pre-placing a portal like Wraith. It's such a niche application and a gamble at that, that you almost have to give the win to Wraith by default, just because you can do more with Wraith, even though it might be less flashy. Being able to have that flexibility is really key in this game.
Boom! Whole squad down.
Hey, brother, not today. Maybe tomorrow.